The Justice Department now intends to interview Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently serving a 20-year prison sentence in Florida for sex trafficking. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche announced plans to meet with Maxwell in the coming days, saying, quote, if she has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and DOJ will hear what she has to say. Maxwell's attorney confirmed discussions with the government are underway, adding, quote, Ghislaine will always testify truthfully. President Trump was asked about the outreach to Maxwell at the White House yesterday.
Do you support the Justice Department seeking an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell? Did you urge the Attorney General to seek one?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
Your Deputy Attorney General has reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given...
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt.
But there it is. Let's bring in MSNBC legal correspondent, former litigator Lisa Rubin. Lisa, good morning. What would you expect the Deputy Attorney General to be asking Ghislaine Maxwell at that federal prison in Florida?
First of all, the existence of a meeting between the Deputy Attorney General and any person who's incarcerated is remarkable. Yeah. And so when Todd Blanche wrote in his X post yesterday, no administration has ever done this as if it were a good thing. I just want to take a step back and recognize why it's so atypical that a political appointee would go to see a convicted felon. It's because Ghislaine Maxwell was prosecuted some time ago. She had an opportunity to testify in her own defense at her criminal trial. She didn't take it. But presumably the conversation between Todd Blanche and Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be, what didn't you say that you're willing to say now in exchange for some form of leniency? And the reason I think that there's a deal to be had is where Ghislaine Maxwell is in her criminal conviction journey, so to speak. Her conviction has been upheld by the Second Circuit, that's the Federal Court of Appeals, last November. She is in the middle of briefing a petition to the Supreme Court to review her conviction. And the sole question for review by the Supreme Court, if Ghislaine Maxwell gets her way, is, am I entitled to the rights and privileges that Jeffrey Epstein negotiated when he negotiated that sweetheart deal with Trump's first labor secretary, Alex Acosta? If so, I should have never been prosecuted by the Southern District of New York. But of course, getting the Supreme Court to review that conviction is an uphill battle to begin with, and then winning is also an uphill battle. So Ghislaine Maxwell very much wants to get out of prison. She has contended that she was wrongfully prosecuted and convicted. She may be willing to say certain things or tell certain truths in order for some leniency from this administration.
And Lisa, that's what I wanted to zero in on, because Maxwell herself has said she has nothing new to say. Ahead in court papers ahead of her trial last time, she said everything is old, it's out there, witnesses aren't reliable. So she has already said that she doesn't have any new information to provide. DOJ has also accused her of lying repeatedly to prosecutors, so therefore she's not exactly a trustworthy individual here. And to your last point, there were howls among some in the legal community saying this is ripe for corruption here, that Maxwell, they fear, could say something that would be pleasing to Donald Trump to verify his version of events in order to get perhaps even a pardon.
Well, people are looking for names. Let's talk about what the MAGA sphere wants here. They believe that there was a sex trafficking ring that not only gratified Jeffrey Epstein, but also was to the benefit of many other individuals. If you look at the publicly available records from the cases, Jonathan, you can see some of those names flatly in the public domain. I won't repeat them here. They're ripe for the taking. But presumably, one of the things they want Ghislaine Maxwell to do is elaborate on that. Who else participated in the sex trafficking ring for which she and Jeffrey Epstein were prosecuted? I will tell you, one of the most prominent victims' lawyers, a man by the name of Brad Edwards, who represented upwards of almost 200 victims, has said Epstein was both the pimp and the John. If you are looking for evidence of a widespread sex trafficking ring through which Jeffrey Epstein was paid so that other people could have access to young women, that's by and large not what you're going to find. At the margins, were there a handful of people who also participated in sex acts with the people that Jeffrey Epstein lured to his orbit? Yes. But is there some widespread pedophilic ring here? No. And that's from the perspective of somebody who has seen multiple deposition transcripts, who sat in on the depositions of Jeffrey Epstein multiple times, who sat in on depositions of Ghislaine Maxwell in civil cases that had to do with defamation, right? Nobody believes that there is more out there except for the MAGA sphere that this DOJ is somehow trying to appease. And as you said, that is ripe for corruption from the same administration who brought us the smells like corruption Eric Adams deal.
Right. So pulling on that thread a bit more, how unusual is it, Lisa, for the Deputy Attorney General of the United States of America to be taking a trip to a prison in Florida to talk to a witness of a crime alleged to have committed several years in the past?
It's beyond unusual. Todd Blanche will tell you as much. He said no administration has ever done anything like this, and he's choosing his words carefully, Mike. He's not saying no career prosecutor has ever talked to somebody who's already incarcerated. No career prosecutor has ever offered to talk with somebody who's under investigation or prosecution. He's saying no administration has ever done this. What he's referring to there is the political leadership of the Department of Justice. The idea that the Deputy Attorney General is going to walk into Federal Correctional Institution Tallahassee, where Ghislaine Maxwell is now serving her sentence, and take a private meeting with her, that takes my breath away in terms of its impropriety and susceptibility to corruption.
Why? Why does it take your breath away?
Well, because first of all, the career prosecutors at the Department of Justice are the ones who dealt with this case. More importantly, it takes my breath away because on July 14th, John Sauer, another former personal criminal defense attorney of Donald Trump, submitted a brief to the Supreme Court in which they said this conviction should stand. And yet now, less than 2 weeks later, Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, wants to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell about what more information she can provide. Wouldn't the time have been much sooner to have done this? This is an administration that itself began the investigation and prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And yet, now, 6 years later, they want to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell about what additional information she could provide. This just reeks of something untoward, particularly given that Ghislaine Maxwell will perhaps do anything, say anything to reduce her prison sentence or to get a pardon or a commutation.
Or exonerate someone powerful who might be implicated in all of this, perhaps someone in the White House.